So maybe you can give our audience a little background about who you are, where you come from, and just certain things about your life that you can begin to open up about, so we can learn a little bit more about you.
All right, I'm the famous artist Birdy Rose, and I'm from Essex, as you've already said. But I've been an artist for a long time, and I met my partner, who calls himself 𝐂𝐡𝐤. We've all got silly names around here. And we decided to, basically, we were in a bit of a situation where we didn't really have a proper living situation. So we decided to do some workshops. We did ceiling painting workshops because I'm an artist and he's a musician. And we used the money from that to buy a van, and we built a home inside the van, and we hit the road, and we sort of delved into the grassroots music and art scene in the UK. And that's where I got sort of dipped my toes in and was surrounded by this extremist, I would say extremist left-wing ideology. But it's not just one of the things I've realised is it's not just a left-wing issue. This is an ideological issue, and it's sort of shown up in a lot of different areas that I didn't think it would show up in, and it's showing up all over the place. So you say like it's an American thing. It's not an American thing. It's definitely cropping up all over the place, if that makes sense, especially in the Western world.
Okay, and then so you are an artist and you have a boyfriend, and you're traveling around and you're meeting people. So what was it about this ideology that first attracted you, that was enticing to you, that you felt like, yeah, this is good. This is probably the best way to help people? What was the allure that you and your boyfriend at the time, or your boyfriend, were attracted to?
Okay, well, I don't think that I saw an ideology and then decided that this looks great and I'm going to follow it. I've always grown up on the left, and my family have always been left, and we've always voted for Labour, and it's just one of those things, because I grew up poor as well. So I just thought this is what people do. And, it makes sense that I'm on the left because I'm an artist and the way I grew up and everything. And I grew up left. So everything that comes with the left wing ideology, if you want to call it that, is what I was already exposed to. So when I went onto the music and art scenes and I saw other more extreme flavors of it, it didn't seem that off to me. It just seemed like maybe I wasn't clever enough to articulate what they're saying or to understand it. So I just was assuming that everybody else is smarter than me and going along with a lot of things. And I did think some things didn't sound right or didn't seem right, but I didn't think that I was in a position to challenge it necessarily from my own side, if you want to call it a side. So for me, what it came down to is I'm on the left. I'm a good person because I care about all these things. I care about homelessness. I care about poverty. I care about justice. I care about disability. I care about people being treated fairly. So I care about all these things. And anybody who's not on the left doesn't care about all of these things, and therefore they're not a good person. That it was as simple as that in some ways.
Yeah, and so would you look at during that period of time people that weren't necessarily on the left as bad people or ignorant people or mean people? Like, how did you view people that just had a different viewpoint perspective on life?
I didn't understand it. I didn't think that you could be a good person and sleep at night if you don't support the things that I support. And it didn't occur to me necessarily that it didn't occur to me that people that don't think like me don't want the same things as me. If that makes sense. I thought that they didn't want the same things as me. I didn't realize they do want the same things as me. They've just got different ideas on how to go about it.
I see. And so you're traveling around, you're doing your artwork, you're a creator, you're very talented, you have a brand, you have a name, and then you're falling in love with this man who's a musician, and you're doing van life. And then over the course of time, you started doing shows, and then you began to make friends. And so tell me, like, what that development was like, and what those years were like from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting. It was exciting being on the road and meeting a lot of people. And I'm very open. I always have been very open to meeting different people and talking to different people. So I did talk to people that weren't on the left, and I did talk to people that didn't have the same views as me. And I didn't, it's weird because I had two thoughts in my mind at the same time, because I didn't think you could be a good person and be on the right. But at the same time, I met a lot of people on the right and talked to them. I just thought that people on the left were better people.
Yeah.
But being on the road, it did introduce me to a lot of things I hadn't been introduced to before. Like, I met a lot of like anarchists and some Antifa people and things like that. And that came as part of dipping our toes in the punk scene as well. And I didn't really encounter those sorts of people before because the hardcore sort of like punk or anarchy scene wasn't really my thing before that. And I didn't mind it, but I didn't agree with some of the things I heard, especially from the anarchists and Antifa. I didn't really think that it was the best way about things, but I didn't think it was a big deal either, because I just thought, well, they're people like me that just want things to be good. So I didn't think that there was anything nefarious about their ideology, but I did think there was something nefarious about right-wing ideology or anything that's not on the left.
So just so we're clear, like anarchists and Antifa, just in a political spectrum, they wouldn't be like typical liberal left-leaning Democrats, but much more radical. Like how we characterize them, in terms of their radical worldview and what they wanted for society.
They think that everything should be torn down and started again in the view of how they think it should be. That I've never agreed with, and I don't really know that much about anarchist ideology, to be honest, because I've always like not taken it too seriously, and I thought that a lot of the anarchists I met were quite bossy. Some of them are nice, but some of them were quite bossy, and I used to make a joke about how anarchists are really authoritarian, but I didn't realise how true that actually was. I thought it was just a joke I was making, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. And so during that time, you started to make friends and really connect with the community. And that included, people that were transsexual or different levels of oppression from their view. Is that a characterization that you became really good friends with certain people, and then you brought them into your subculture and in your group and your circle of friends that was so important to you?
Yeah, so there was actually a couple of people in particular who we were friends with who at some point along our friendship decided that they identify as trans, and we introduced everyone to each other that we knew, and we took one person in particular on tour with her, gave them gigs, introduced them to all our friends, introduced them to promoters and venues and festivals. And so we didn't think much of it because I didn't really care if somebody who's a woman calls herself a man or somebody who's a man calls themselves a woman. I just thought, well, whatever, people doing whatever they want. And I didn't think about what would happen if I'm forced to lie. I didn't think about that.
You have all these things going on. You have this community. You're prospering. You're enjoying band life. You're enjoying the moment, and you're just enjoying creating. And so things started to happen, and maybe you can let us know like what happened within the group, friends circle, and the relationship with your fiancé and some of the other people and yourself.
Yeah, I mean, some of it goes way back. I mean, one of the main people that has instigated this cancellation of us was friends with us before we even got together, and he was in my partner's band. So this goes way back, and he was not happy that we got together and treated us differently from that moment on, and in particular was spiteful towards me. But we tried to keep things amicable, and so there's a lot of personal dynamics going on with a few of these people where things were happening behind the scenes. And what happened was in 2017, I've just had enough. And I said to my partner, we can't have people around us that are treating us badly. And there were things going on that, people saying spiteful things to us, people messaging us and saying, we're out of order. So one of our friends told us that we're, the most self-serving and ungrateful people he's ever met. And then when my partner phoned him up and said, why did you say that to her? He said to my partner that I've read the message wrong and I'm overreacting. But we both read the message. So there was just little petty things going on that we didn't have time for.